Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 7th of September, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index, just sinking a little bit lower, so some respite there on that strong dollar. And if you look across the last few months, actually, the dollar's been reasonably flat, although we obviously had a bit of a hiatus last month. So we are just seeing that pulling back a little bit, and consequently, we're seeing the euro just a little bit stronger, nudging this 116.50 level this morning. So looking better on the short-term chart for the euro, no clear upside targets, and still bearish on the medium term. The dollar really shows up against the yen. That's where it tends to be a lead indicator, dollar yen, and we're seeing here the dollar sinking lower, just finding the floor this morning, but bearish short term there. With some downside targets as well. Sterling has been holding this 129.50 level, looking better short term against the dollar, but still looking bearish on that medium term, and there is still a downside target of 124 hanging over sterling. And against the euro, sterling relatively flat despite the jump we saw this week, but it's still bearish long and medium term against the euro. Against the Swiss franc, much the same picture, bearish there. And against the Aussie dollar looking stronger at sterling looking stronger there at about 181, so looking much better there, weaker Aussie dollar. Bitcoin has really suffered the last couple of days. News that Goldman Sachs is not going to open a cryptocurrencies trading desk now, and that's really pushing Bitcoin lower. Just the sentiment that institutions are not going to get involved. So bearish on all three time frames. U.S. stock market sold off yesterday again. We're down 1/3% on the S&P. The Nasdaq was hit quite badly, down nearly 1%, and is bearish now short term. And the Dow just holding quite steady there, little change with such a tightly held number of stocks, only 30 stocks. 0.75% down on the Russell 2000 and just heading into bearish territory. The futures this morning, little changed on the S&P future. The Nasdaq E-mini down slightly, but again, that chart looking pretty bearish on the short term. FTSE 100 sinking lower this morning and looking clearly bearish on that medium and short-term chart, and the FTSE 250 also looking weaker as well. The DAX has also pushed lower and looking pretty bearish now on all three time frames. So European markets looking quite bearish. CAC Quarante, much the same picture. Tokyo was down nearly 0.5% overnight. Hang Seng index was little changed, and the Shanghai Composite actually bucked the trend a little bit up, about 1/3%. The Sensex in India was up slightly, and the Aussie market, which has been quite a big faller lately, did actually just fall a further 1/4%. Brent crude sitting at $76.72, looking weaker on the short-term chart now, and WTI also just looking a little bit weaker as well. US nat gas is also pushing lower as well. And taking a look at gold, we see gold was back above that $1,200 level, still looking bullish on the short-term chart on that weaker dollar, and against the silver chart actually was nudging new lows this week, but not quite yet bullish yet. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.89%, just holding bullish on the short-term chart, but the medium term is still a little bit bearish. Tech stocks had quite a big session. We've seen some quite big falls this week. Apple was down another 1.6% overnight. Amazon was down 2% the day before yesterday, further down nearly a further 2%, just holding above the short-term trend. Google has been quite a big faller of late as well, down 1.25%. Facebook has breached the critical 170 level, and this chart now looking very bearish, making new lows. That's taking Facebook back to levels that we saw in April. So Facebook shares do look really quite bearish now, and downside targets as much as 10 and 30% downside, so that could really weigh heavily on the market. Microsoft finding support at about 108, but sold off quite a bit in the last few days as well. And Netflix has been quite a big fall. They recovered a little bit yesterday, up 1.5%. And Tesla has been in the news quite a lot, of course, as well. Elon Musk making a lot of comments, and we saw a little change there. But again, Tesla shares testing May levels, so looking pretty bearish there on some of the tech stocks. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.